Hello and welcome to the Hoodcast. I am live as ever from the Hood compound in Parks Unknown. We are joined today by comedian, promoter, and fellow member of Autism Club, Mark Burkwood. Mark, thank you for joining us.
No worries. How are you doing, Aaron? You all good? It's funny. It's like we had a conversation before asking how each other was, but I just feel I don't want to break the illusion, but now I have broken the illusion by mentioning that. Good start.
I can imagine people would understand our obligation to the formalities of it, but
Yeah.
I don't think they really care. A lot of comedy and movies have that sort of meta thing where like Deadpool constantly breaks the fourth wall, Rick and Morty, Big Mouth, they all sort of disappear up themselves into this self-referential kind of thing. So I don't
I
think
mean,
anyone will be that bothered.
that's exactly what I was going for. You got it spot on. I want to sort of, definitely a Rick and Morty vibe to this. I just feel it, I've got a real sense that that's exactly going to happen. Uh, we'll find ourselves, I don't know, recreating an episode of The Purge in a second, just even though we're on lockdown. But,
Figure it out.
yeah, I'll figure it out. That was one of my favourite episodes of Rick and Morty, actually, the Purge one.
I think it's one of the best ones. I think it's
Yeah.
since series 2. There was a couple of good episodes in series 3, but it's kind of went downhill, I think, personally.
Yeah, no, I've not watched the latest series because it's not even out. Is it out in the UK yet?
Yes, a lot of it's out on all four, Channel 4's kind of streaming service. But I watched a few episodes, and apart from tidbits, I couldn't really tell you what happens in those episodes. Like,
Right.
all I can really remember is they do a very cliched heist episode, which is okay, and another episode where Rick has this planet, which is his bathroom planet, which just has one toilet that only he can use, where he poos and someone else uses it, and he gets angry. And that was the premise for that entire episode, and that's one of the better ones.
I might have seen that. That was it. I started trying to stream it, and I streamed a couple of episodes, and then it's like I used a VPN. No. I watched it legally, of course, for listeners. But no, I did try to give it a listen. I remember the one where he sat on his toilet. It's just, I think, sums up my sense of humour, really, that I remembered that one out of it all. The toilet episode was basically the only good thing about what I saw so far of Series 4. But I did watch a couple of episodes. But I didn't persevere because I was worried it was going to get worse. But now I think I should watch it. It's always one of those things when you admire a series and admire the whole franchise. It's like, I really don't want it ruined. But then I think they voted because fans demanded it, and when that happens, there's always a big risk in that.
Yeah, because maybe the creator's heart's not in it. Maybe they've just sort of ran out of ideas. Maybe they need a bit more time to get through it. Now, I found there was a lot of hysteria last season about Pickle Rick, and when I first saw it, it was funny because of how stupid it was. But then when everyone started getting Pickle Rick tattoos and fucking music festivals that year were a write-off because you had some drunken bellend yelling, Pickle Rick!
Rick! It's like,
It got ruined really, really quickly, I thought.
Yeah, when a comedy series, when there's, as soon as you get catchphrases, I think that's the death knell, really.
Get Nina or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. Well, that's taken a bit of a tangent, hasn't it?
We went down the Rick and Morty rabbit hole. I just think that sometimes a joke isn't necessarily aided by overexposure, and what can start off all right by repetition can end up sort of dying on its arse. I don't know. There must be some other examples of that, but what's kind of your take on that? Do you prefer to keep a joke fresh?
Yeah, my routine. That's a good example. No, it's not. My routines are solid. I don't repeat jokes at all. Uh, I haven't used the same joke for the last 4 years. No, 3 years. Sorry. Um, but yeah, it's funny because only you'd get that because you've seen my sets a couple of times. Well, I think you've seen my sets. I don't know. Have
I've
you?
seen clips, yeah.
Uh, okay, cool.
Because the first time we were meant to meet in person and I was to finally do your gig
I
was
fuck.
the time that you'd fucked off to New York to see Billy Joel.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was either you or Billy Joel, Aaron, and if you're gonna really make me choose, I mean, I'm
I wasn't going to make you choose. That's fair enough. Like,
I mean, not just Billy Joel at Madison Square Gardens. I mean, it's or like a library in Redbridge on a Friday night. As much as I love that my night, but yeah, it was one of those things. I double booked it at the same time. Like I booked the laughable. I booked the room for that night, and I booked New York like a couple of weeks later with my brothers, just all excited about it. And then I thought, oh shit, double booked. What one am I really going to cancel?
yeah,
Or
exactly. So you talk about you run a library in Redbridge. That is laughable comedy night. Could you go into a bit about when you founded it and why and some of the ethos? I may need to quickly take a tinkle whilst you go into that. Is that okay?
so basically, I'll be talking to no one. So I mean, Aaron, if you had just walked off, I would not have realised. You didn't need to say that. Like
I
now,
just thought I'd be on the level with you, man. I'll be 30 seconds. I'll force it out, I
no,
promise.
no, listen. You need to get a water bottle and go in there and let the listeners hear your lack of dedication. Anyway, go for a piss. It's fine. Right. So laughable, yeah. So, la- so laughable is a night um, dedicated to disabled adults and adults with sort of mental health conditions. And I set it up because I saw there was lots of other nights, like themed nights, like women only nights and LGBTQ nights, and there were nights for people of color. And I just thought there's no real night for like disabled comics, and there was
We
so many.
need attention too. I am back, by the way. I only missed 20
Brilliant.
seconds.
Oh, do you know what? That obviously I'm not going to carry on anymore. No. um, no, so yeah, it's as I say, it's a night for disabled adults and adults with mental health problems. And like the thing is, there were so many good disabled acts on the circuit, but there was no themed nights for them. I saw like a gap in the market almost. It was like, but also at the same time, I was realizing that there were so many open mic nights that were not things like wheelchair accessible, and just it, and there were so many good comics who are like in like wheelchairs. Like the first person I got to headline my night was Evan Simmons, and he's incredible. But I imagine there's so many venues he can't go to because of the fact that he's in a wheelchair. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was absolutely brilliant. He smashed it. But I just think it's just to give them, yeah, to give people a platform to perform. And the sort of ethos I have is like basically no punching down, only punching up. Which the thing is, I think most nights have that type of ethos, but you'd be surprised about the amount of people who don't follow that, and you have to make it explicitly clear. So that's why I've decided to make it explicitly clear about the no punching down policy, because I remember I'm not gonna name this comedian because I don't think it's fair, but there was one who sent me their set and they were very good, but there was one joke in it I wasn't that happy with. I didn't want them to use that that night. Again, I won't go into it. And they were like, "Well, that's my style, but I can take out if you want." And then when that person performed on the night, he decided to do that joke. And then afterwards, because it went down horribly, like I knew it would, he sort of like walked off and go, "Oh, that's my set," and I was just like, "Oh." Okay, thanks.
Now you have to pick up the room from
Yeah,
someone dropping you
exactly.
in that.
Cheers. Cheers for that. Like your set was going all right, and then he decided to throw that joke, and because it was like a bad response, you decided the best way to deal with that was just by walking off. It's like, oh,
And
cheers.
not trying to make anyone like him again or think like, oh, that was just poorly. That was just a poor kind of decision on his part. He just thought, fuck it, I'll leave you to it. I can't be asked to try and tidy up my mess.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of taking a dump on the floor and go, there you go, Mark. But I was just thought, I haven't really had much contact with him since. I'm not really surprised, and I wouldn't want to. And again, I'm not going to name this person, but I have seen him like win competitions, headline certain nights, and like completely screw up, like because and just because what they do, they do have a good 5 minute sets. They do have really good sets, but then when they get a bit too like full of themselves, and they say get a headline spot, they don't make the most of it. I don't know. I just feel like they think because they're that good, like they can get away with anything, and it's just like that's it. He was headlining one night, and he started making jokes about the MC, but to the point where he was picking on the MC. Like you do not pick on the MC, a promoter who's giving you a headline spot. And the MC had to walk out, and it was just sorry. I'm going off a tangent here, but my night's great, by the way. I don't have many people like that. Of course, I haven't even on that night. Um,
He doesn't. He has very good caliber acts, if I do say so for myself.
yeah, I mean, we've had like people like Luke Poulton on there, who's brilliant. Joshua Robertson, who's absolutely phenomenal. A comedian with cerebral palsy. He's got a really nice, dark, twisted sense of humour, but done in a way that works, which is very hard to do. Like I struggle with it, but he's like headlined at the Comedy Store and stuff like that. So he's very like it's funny. The acts I find I get more high caliber. So like when other acts apply, it's like I'm getting sort of a standard now. But what I want to try and do with the night is give any sort of new act a go and try to get a sense of progression. Like so, if they do a few good 5 minute slots, give them 7. If it's 7, give them 10. If it's 10, if they're smashing their tens all the time, give them a paid headline 20. Because I believe in that. I believe in progression, and there's very few nights that offer that sense of progression as well. There's one or two that really do, but it's very rare to find that. So I think I want to give disabled people a platform, but I also want to give them that sense of progression, um, which
Not just have us on as kind of like a token or a diversity initiative.
no, it's not. It's because I vet the acts as well. Like I've turned down some acts that really are not good. But I've also because the thing is, okay, because mine's a new night, I can't really set the standards so high, but I still have a certain standard that I like. But I've had like you need to do me the minimum of sending me a video and at least making me laugh throughout half that set type of thing, and sticking to the ethos. But I've had acts literally email me and going, I'm disabled. I've got a brain injury. Give me a 5 minute set, and that's literally been their email.
Yeah, and you're not going to do it for that because then you're going out of your way to create a space where disabled artists get a platform and a chance, but also succeed on merit. But if you started doing that, um, just giving people spots because they've got a brain injury, you'd be perverting the message almost, and you'd be having these people on just because they're disabled rather than just they're very very funny and just happen to be disabled.
Yeah, it's like one of the things acts ask me like all the time is, do I need to talk about my disability? I'm like, it's a disability themes night in name, like as in like you you have to you have to have disability but or mental health problem. No, like, that's the thing. I opened up to people with mental health problems because like I wasn't getting enough acts to put on nights, and so I needed to open up the circle a bit more. Um, But it was almost like they said, "Oh, do I need to talk about my mental health or disability?" I'm like, "Well, no, you have it, but you're not defined by it. Like it's giving them a platform, but again, you don't have to define yourself by it. You don't have to focus on that. You can get up and do your set, and if you're talented, people will laugh." And I think that's a very sort of important message. It's not diversity for diversity's sake. It's that I noticed there were some amazing disabled acts on the circuit that I wanted to, give a spot to, because again, people have applied for it, but there's been people I've seen at gigs that I've approached afterwards and go, "I run this night. Do you want to come on it?" Like, so I almost sort of talent scout. I do a lot of scout spotting as well. Like, um, Edinburgh last year, that's where I saw Aaron Simmons, and I was like, I'd love him to headline, um, because I saw his hour set. It's phenomenal, but. I just loved his Edinburgh title as well, Disabled Coconut, because that's what someone referred to him as, because he was just like, I'm disabled on the inside, but not on the outside. So, no, I'm disabled on the outside, but not on the inside. That's literally, someone had a row with him about that, and he was telling me about it. It's just, someone called him a disabled coconut. It was hilarious, but it's that sort of thing. It's being able to make light of those situations, make jokes about it, and actually sort of be talented, and I think that's what's important as well.
Yeah. So you're managing to get it so that disabled people have an outlet or a creative sort of place, but it's not their entire identity, because you don't want to be known as just that comedian, and because as soon as you get pigeonholed that's kind of really stunts your growth, and the end goal is to be taken serious as a performer, especially at a point where you say performers, it's hard to get into clubs, get your foot in the door. If you can't even roll up a ramp into the door, then it limits you as a performer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always about sort of creating that night that was accessible for everybody. Saying that, though, the one thing, and I think they're changing this, but where it's located in Ilford, I remember one of the first things Evan and other wheelchair comedians have said to me. So that's really bad. Not that they're a wheelchair comedian, but just for the sake of the story, they said, "Yeah, your venue's really accessible, but Ilford Station is not." Like, it's like, I advertise it's an amazing accessible venue, and then it's like, well, the station's not, but they are luckily rebuilding the station, and because it's during lockdown, hopefully by the end of it.
That's good that they're sorting it out. I mean, I have use of my legs, and I struggled getting around Ilford Station.
Yeah, exactly, and let's be frank, Ilford's not the nicest area, but at the end of the day, because it started because I wanted to do a night like this, but I knew sort of how expensive nights are to set up. And my girlfriend works for a charity called One Place East, and they support disabled adults in like applying for jobs and signing on and stuff like that, just in general. And she was like, "Well, we have a lot of our events at Redbridge Central Library. I know the person who runs it. He'd be more than happy to set up to give you a space." And I talked to the person who was running a lot of the library events, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm more than happy to give you a space up here. It's great for the community, and it's and it just makes get people to come along for the library." And again, it was free as well, which was amazing. So A, it's a library, and I love that, and B, it's the costs went way down because of that. And so I started doing things like buying booze and food for the acts and stuff, and
which is greatly appreciated, by the way.
oh yes, I know it is, Aaron. I know it is. So I've heard. Yeah. Speaking of which, I've just cracked open a beer as we spoke. So, but
Well, this
yeah,
does count as a cold one with the boys, Mark. We're having a cold one.
cold one with the boys. Cold one. Yeah, having a cold one in my bedroom. But
what are you drinking, Mark?
I'm drinking Brewdog Punk IPA.
Oh, nice. My girlfriend has some. I'm having some Adnams Wild Wave cider. I've got through. This is my 6th can.
Sweet.
Strong by dark fruits after this.
Your sixth can. Blood. Have you
Yeah.
found? Have you found that during lockdown you've been drinking way more? I know I have.
Oh,
Like,
definitely. What the fuck else is there to do?
oh no. So what I've been doing, I've been like ordering beer in bulk, like buy. So I ordered like 60 of those Punk IPA cans for like no, so 48 Punk IPA cans for like 60 quid. Um, and the last one they sent me, like 7 were damaged. So they gave me like a £35 refund, which was brilliant. And so what I did with that is order another load. Um, but I've definitely got through. On maybe my since the lockdown on my third case of 48, and I've been buying booze from the off license as well. So, but it is this thing. What else is there to do?
Yeah.
Like, it is. I'm fine. I'm really missing comedy. I'm really missing just life. Like, you know what I mean? Just going outside and
Yeah, without that being regimented and controlled. And I tell you what, there's this service in Norwich called Beer Drop, and it's kind of a 15 quid minimum if you're living in Norwich, but you can get snacks and you can get all these different kinds of beers and ales and Wild Wave cider, which I get. You can get like a steak and ale pie. So more often than not, I'm ordering like my 6-pack and my steak and ale pie and just feeling really, really blokey. Like, yeah,
yeah,
steak and ale pie, you know?
beer. But it's like because I went traveling in Southeast Asia a few years ago, and towards the end of my trip, we were in Thailand, and I found an Irish pub. It was found at O'Neill's, and O'Neill's in an island in Thailand, not just in the Bangkok city, like an island, an O'Neill's, and it's steak and ale pie and a pint of Guinness, and that's the first thing I got. Because like in Southeast Asia, beer's really cheap and stuff, and it's great, and they have got craft beer out there. But I hadn't had a pint of Guinness in over a year, and I was just like, I need this. Like, I think I didn't miss much of Western food, but one thing I did miss was like that stodgy, really bloaty food. But yeah,
Yeah, the stuff that like collapses your bowels a few hours later, you know?
oh, absolutely. But yeah, no, I would. I'm trying to be careful, but yeah, just the food we're ordering as well. It's just like, yeah, not like literally. Me and my girlfriend last night had a crisp sandwich. Like,
Yeah, I had my girlfriend got like 3 pizzas for 50p each last night, so I was I was chuffed to bits with that. But it's just it's really easy to fall in the habit of just getting smashed and just eating takeaways every day at the moment because you're just so bored and distressed with the comedy. Like I don't know whether you've been doing them, but I've been doing the virtual gigs. But how
yes.
have you been finding them?
So actually, I did the Gong Mad show, South Kensington Comedy, and it was the first Gong show I'd ever done, by the way. And doing it online was a hell of an experience because it was like they had it on Zoom and then they put the Zoom out to Facebook Live. But the problem was some of the comedians had their Facebook Live or Facebook app open, right? And so when this comedian, she was doing one of her sets, she could hear herself 5 seconds later telling the same joke, and it really freaked her out. And she was like, "Whoa, this is like." And it figured because they linked the Zoom to the Facebook Live, and there was so many technical difficulties. I mean, in all fairness, this was the first virtual gig they did, and then we all had to do sort of 3 minutes of material, right? But a load of comedians was just talking about the lockdown and Corona and all the technical difficulties they were having. Whereas I just went and did my sort of regular set for 3 minutes. I ended up winning the show, like, and it was amazing. But I mean, it was on a technical. I'd say it was on a technicality just because I was the only one that got through my set without any technical hiccups. You know, the guy with the best.
A W is a W, man. Don't question it.
Yeah, win to win. That's what everyone keeps telling me. Win to win. Like there were some great acts on that lineup. Joshua Robson was on that lineup. Panilla Holland as well was on that lineup, and there was a strong. It was a strong lineup. Oh, and Leighton Roth was there as well. But it was a weird experience. But because what I did, I decided to have a bit of a backdrop to my Zoom, and because I'm trying this new thing with my act where I'm kind of come across as really nerdy autistic, so I got myself some sort of glasses and an anorak, and I had a library as a background. And I think that alone sort of won it. I think just because people appreciated the effort I gone to, because that's the one thing this MC said to me. Like when I did an online comedy course actually recently, and he said, and it was everything but the gags, and it was all about how you can improve your performance, not just about writing gags. But he was saying to me like this could be the new reality, online gigs, and so whatever gigs you do, acts like it's a normal gig. He said, I know it's hard, but you need to try and treat it like a normal gig. Otherwise, what's the point, sort of thing? And he's sort of got a good point. And I've noticed many challenges, but I found that I just did my set like I normally did. I didn't overdo it, the Corona jokes, because I think every comedian has a fucking Corona joke now.
Well, like, it's become a meme. It's like when every comedian has like a Madeleine McCann joke or a pedo joke or a 9/11 joke. It just sort of becomes part of your diet, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And like, I have to admit, I always make the jokes about social distancing and autism. Like, I do that at the moment. Oh, well, I've always known how to do that. And I think Harry Wright alludes to that as well. He's another autistic comedian for us listeners. But yeah, I felt like the online gigs, they're different. But I think we have to sort of get used to them for a while because, and okay, I speak as someone who won a competition, so of course I'm going to say online gigs are great. But no, I mean there were challenges to it, but it's something I want to do more and something I want to try and get my head around. I mean, how have you found them?
Well, I found initially because some of the pre-recorded stuff I've done, I found it was sort of like trying to replace heroin or methadone with paracetamol, in that it just wasn't scratching the same itch. But I've gotten used to them. It's just a different style, and I sort of just plow on as if I'm killing it anyway. And I've become a lot better with it. It took 1 or 2 gigs for me of a gig or so to really warm up to it, as in get used to the format and the change and the sort of immediate feedback of laughter not being forthcoming. But I've gotten used to it. But I've mostly taken the quarantine time to really just get like loads of podcasts in there, and I'm making steps to professionalize it with some, like logos and intro jingle and putting on an RSS feed and just those sorts of steps. And I'm going to be filming a lot of sketches, so I've sort of decided to put my efforts more into other avenues,
Yeah, no, so that's exactly what I've been doing. That's like, because I did the Autism Hour podcast. I actually started it whilst I was gigging, but I let it lapse because of the amount of gigs I was doing. And actually, the one benefit of this lockdown, I've really tried to professionalise the Autism Hour podcast. And I've got involved in 1 or 2 sketches other comedians have written. And yeah, I think it's important to explore other avenues as well. And I think it's important to try and keep those creative juices going, because when it finally does get back to normal, I don't want to feel completely out my depths. Like, I mean, there is going to be that element of feeling somewhat out of your depths, but
you want to minimize it as much as possible, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no. So virtual gigs, I'm seeing this as a right. See what I can do. There's another comedian who I had on my podcast, Juliana Haynes. He's like a Malaysian comedian, and he can do like online gigs every day, like all around the world, and it's mad. And I actually said to her, "Can you give me a list of those? Because I'm just intrigued and all." And she sent me this sort of spreadsheet, and I'm like, "Okay, there's certain limits. I'm not doing a gig streaming to Australia because I'd have to get up at silly o'clock in the morning, like, just to do it. But I'll do other gigs here and there, but yeah, no. So I'm trying to get used to it. I'm trying to throw myself into it, but I know what you mean. It's not the same at all. Saying that, when I won that competition online, I was like, I still got a bit of a buzz out of it. So it was like it was something to keep me going. But it's
Yeah, I'd rather have the infrastructure and in place than not. So the option of sort of dipping your toe in, um, rather than not, because I think we're still in sort of the initial sort of pioneering phase of a sort of virtual period of comedy. So people are getting through the technical kinks and the alterations in performances. So I think if you make the effort to do a few, um, by I'd say the summer, it'll be more normalized, so you'll become a bit more accustomed to it. It won't be such a culture shock. But
um,
the only thing I feel is I'm doing a lot of the same tried and tested material in these gigs, or stuff that I know that works or will work, um, rather than taking a risk and trying new material, because I don't think it's really the right climate to get feedback and test out new material at the
one.
moment.
I totally agree with you on that. Like that's when I did the Gong Mad show. All the other comedians, well, most of the other comedians, were just trying out new material, and it really didn't work. But it wasn't that the jokes weren't good; it was that because it's all about when you do a new joke, getting your timings right, and timings are hard enough in an online platform anyway. So, and obviously, again, I was one of the very few that just stuck with tried and tested. And actually, I think I'm with you 100% on that. That formula works, because it's hard to get used to the online gigs, get a bit of rhythm going, maybe, and then maybe throw one or two new gags out there. But have you written much since during the lockdown?
I've written a few bits. I've written a bit about how. Have you seen the Predator movie by the first one with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, I have.
Um, so I have a bit about how how sort of hyper masculine and totally unsubtle the homoerotic subtext is in that movie, and like the sexual attention of Arnie and Carl Weathers, like they want to shower each other in jizz. Um, so I sort of did this kind of properly homoerotic fan fiction that I read out uh, with Arnie and Carl, and how the ejaculate is like multicolored, and it ends with like me singing like "You only want a face full of that purple rain," and then I try and get people to start singing "Purple Rain" with me, and the imagery and stuff went down well.
That is brilliant. I like that. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's about doing stuff like that. And I mean, I know it's silly, but I did a sort of little thing with TikTok. Like I was one of those things. I was not going to use TikTok, never. But actually, you can do quite funny little skits on there. Like me and my girlfriend did a like little skit on TikTok where
You were drinking bleach.
yes, that one. You've seen it. Yeah. So we just all it was listening to Boris Johnson talking about our apparent success, and then in the next clip we were had to celebrate good times on it whilst drinking bleach, whilst the flash of 30,000 deaths kept going on and off. And I just thought I'm going to sort of try sort of stuff like that. But I'm also there's something else as well. Did you? I know this is a bit random, but have you seen Mick Hucknall's Twitter feed lately? Like
It's
simply,
been pretty surreal, hasn't it?
yes, okay. So I want to do something with that. Like, so he's listed a load of random like best cultures in the world or something, hasn't he? And a lot of people are comparing it to like Alan Partridge type thing. He's losing his mind sort of thing. But
Well, kind
um,
of like Dave Chappelle's racial draft, or something like that.
yeah, it was mad. So, but he's listed a load of the best cultures in the world and a couple of other musicians, and I just feel like, hang on, if I can get the "We Didn't Start the Fire" music, and I just read out in the style of that, there is something in that because I felt like I was, that Billy Joel song "We Didn't Start the Fire" when he
Yeah,
listed all that. I just feel like it was something. It reminded me of that, so I don't know. That's something I might play around with, but I mean that's what's great about like say celebrities in lockdown. It also goes to show they're human too, and they're losing their fucking minds. So
Yeah, like we've obviously had things like Cardi B crying because she had to eat cereal in her house, and we've had Madonna having like a weird pseudo philosophical rant naked in her rose covered bath about the
yeah,
coronavirus.
and
We've had Ellen DeGeneres trying to look normal, even though she's a horrible woman who bullies autistic people. But you know,
shit. Hang on, sorry. Let's delve into that. What? I mean, I know she's best mates with George Bush, and that rubs me up the wrong way. But she bullies autistic people.
yeah, well, she's horrible to all of her staff, but there's there's this bit subreddit, and it's like, oh, if you've ever worked in LA or the area where she lives, you have a horror story about Ellen DeGeneres if you worked in the service industry. And there was like this Whole Foods cafe where someone works 2 jobs, so she didn't have time to, you know, redo her nail polish. So she had 1 or 2 nails which were a bit cracked, apparently. And Ellen wrote to the office saying how unprofessional it was and wanting her gone, and she nearly got fired because of this.
Whoa.
And
Up.
apparently you're not allowed to give her, if you work for her, you're not allowed to give her direct eye contact or talk to her. And she had this autistic member of staff who loved greeting people and waving at them, and they made them, and they waved at Ellen, and Ellen got them fired them because they happened to wave at her. Yeah.
So she didn't take their fucking needs into account. Ah, okay. Yeah. I mean, not that she probably knew they were autistic, because she didn't give a shit about them, basically. It's that sort of thing. When you get to that level of fame, and it's like, yeah, you just don't give a shit, do you? How you affect people's livelihoods. And
Yeah.
fucking hell.
Apparently her wife, once, because someone asked her how her day went, Ellen just flipped out and was like, how dare you? Do you know who I am? Like, how dare you even talk to me? And apparently her wife was like mortified, trying to like get her to calm down because she just like flipped out. And it seems kind of interesting, and I want to know we'll get into a broader point on this, but Ellen has kind of this entire PR, and her brand is around sort of this wholesome, lovable lesbian aunt almost.
Yeah.
But in reality, she's clearly a horrible piece of shit.
Fucking hell. Wow. I mean, again, the biggest controversy I've heard about her is she sort of befriends, like, arseholes, but, like, because she's nice to everyone, she's nice to absolute cunts as well. That's the only thing I thought was bad. But fuck me, that whole kind of stuff about how she treats her staff, it kind of doesn't surprise me, because, I don't know, when you're that nice on camera, there must be a kind of, you must use all your energy then. I'm not excusing it, by the way, but it's almost as if she's like saving it all up for the camera and being this wholesome lesbian aunt thing, and then going, well, off stage I could be a total cunt. Does not matter. And even if people report it, so what? I have the best PR team, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
the fact that people, unless you're committed, I only know about this because my girlfriend uses Reddit, and if you really commit to beyond the sort of George Bush friend meme, and if you look into this stuff, there's only a small segment of the population who look into this and know about it and agree with it. And that's a fraction of her fan base and reach. People who are big fans of her won't care, or either won't believe it or believe it and won't care or think she's right. And then, you know, the sort of casual watchers of Ellen, who are plenty, and they just won't look into it and are not that invested either way. And it kind of thinks to a broader point, and we could talk about the George Bush thing. I just wanted to wrap up the bit with the Ellen bit with 2 bits about it. When kind of, especially since she's credited a lot with being one of the first open lesbians on, you know, popular telly, and kind of normalizing that and being an important figure in the LGBT movement for that reason. But then when you become so rich and established, you essentially become part of the establishment and sort of complicit in the system you hate. You're just then the establishment's lesbian aunt rather than the people's lesbian aunt, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I thought there's a big sort of element on that, and like, but this is what again I've noticed, and I go back to the disability point. Like, uh, any disabled acts I see at comedy nights are the token disabled acts. They're like, they're very much, oh, here's our token sort of thing, and it's or like what they did. Like I know there's been nights where I've been literally paired up with another autistic comedian, like one after the other sort of thing. It's like, and it just felt the way they sort of did it. And these are like again the tokenization of that as well. But I just imagine if like I don't know, just sort of, when you think about famous disabled comedians that are like really big, um, like I don't know, Francesca Martinez, and she's great, like in terms of her politics as well. But they always have her on the panel show as the disabled comedian sort of thing. But it's almost as if, like the establishment, they need at least one of every time. Like you got the lesbian aunt, probably you probably got the disabled comedian, you got the righteous, you probably have the righteous black person or something. Do you know what I
You
mean?
have the flamboyant gay, you have the gay that
Gay,
acts like a straight, stereotypically. Yeah, everyone sort of, you have these people to play a role rather than take those groups seriously almost.
but it's really interesting. Like going back to the program The Boys, I that really reminds me of that. I just because I've watched it recently, it's in my head. It's like the way the corporations frame those superheroes, as if like when one of them who's meant to act Christian then sort of rebels a little bit. It's like we're going to paint her as a rebellious person, and then like when she's sexually assaulted, it's like we're gonna. I won't go into it too much, but we're gonna paint that as her fighting the system. But it's almost because it's in their control, you're not really fighting the system. It's almost yeah. It's like this is the thing. If if you ever sort of come to a point where you get that big or famous, that's what you're contending with. Because I always almost wonder what Ellen was like before that. I don't know. Just you see those. She has this image, but it's like, what was she actually like before? And what is and not just in real life as a person, but before she had the fame and fortune and stuff like that. It always sort of makes me wonder as well.
Yeah, whether fame kind of warps you or you were already predisposed to that kind of behavior, but fame enables you in that way.
Yeah, it would be. Like I don't know. So that's why when comedians sort of become big enough, they're definitely it's definitely sort of watered down uh, to a point. Although saying that, maybe Frankie Boyle would be different from that because he just did his own stuff and he was thrown off Mock the Week because he was too offensive, and then he ended up getting his own BBC show and was like even more darker with it. So
But
like,
he's doing it in a way where he's not really. He went from kind of a lot of targets of his most controversial jokes were more vulnerable people or people that weren't in power, like Rebecca Adlington was one. The Queen, I
yeah,
think, is a fair game because of it's the Queen.
yeah.
But stuff, I think probably the stuff about keeping autistic people in cages and the Harvey Price stuff was probably the most controversial of it.
I mean, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's done some awful stuff, and I almost felt like he was playing up to that. And the more people got offended, the more he went right. I'm gonna. But actually, now it's funny because I've watched Frankie Boyle and the way he sort of progressed. And actually, if you look at him now, he does say dark stuff, but he doesn't punch down. He mainly punches up now, and because he likes to take piss out the corporate elite, and he's very much pro Palestine, and because he has his show New World Order, which I think, and he mainly picks on the people in privileged positions, whereas he did, yes, you're right, he used to punch down a hell of a lot. But it's funny, I know comedians who've sort of met him and gone, it's really weird because as a person he's absolutely lovely, but I can't work him out because there are elements sometimes, wow, you shouldn't be saying that. But there are sometimes where I go, no, you hit the nail on the head sort of thing. So, but when he is offensive, now I notice it's more about punching up. So I don't know, it's just interesting to see. But I certainly make you right. There was a period where he was just punching down for the sake of it. And it just got to the point where it was hard to watch.
Yeah,
Like,
I did, as an admission, used to enjoy his darker stuff, even his worse stuff, because
oh
I
yeah,
kind of
so,
got off on the sheer horror and social nature of it, and that was when I thought, like, by virtue of doing material about the topic, the better comedians handled the darker material, but you have to have a certain skill with it. But a lot of people, my friends included, myself included, prefer this incarnation of Frankie Boyle, where he's got that sort of dark edge still, but he's sort of aiming in the right directions almost.
yeah, exactly. I'm really liking what he's like now because but it's funny. I read one of his autobiographies, My Shit Life So Far,
I love
and
that one.
yeah, it's fucking brilliant. Again, I don't know how much is true in there because it is Frankie Boyle, but he comes from a really sort of like he's comes from a dark place anyway. You know, he's an alcoholic. He was a teacher, and he went through a lot of shit and stuff, and it's just you can see why he's that type of person. But yeah, no, it's just interesting insight into sort of comedy. I mean, I do like my comedy darker, but I also think there's a way you do it. Like I've performed at dark comedy nights, and I've told certain jokes that have gone down great, but like there's certain people that make like just innocuous rape jokes, like casually throw one out there, which I just think made people very uncomfortable. And that's it. And there was the MC who I was the MC of that night. He said to this guy who did that rape joke, he went, "Unless you've gone through it yourself, you can't really throw it out like that. You can't really like." I'm not sure whether I should repeat the joke. I don't know. Um,
Well, it depends. Whatever you feel comfortable with, man. If you don't want
no,
to repeat it,
I'm happy to talk about it, but if like I like because what I will say before is there's context behind it. He was a bit of a jack the lad, 21 years old, bit of a know it all, and his jokes were like they were obviously stolen, offensive jokes. A lot of them, like you wouldn't go out placing Jimmy Carr set sort of thing. It was obviously stuff that wasn't written by him, or a lot of it. Like, I'll say the joke and he can decide whether he can edit it out or not. But the joke was, and this is awful, by the way, just pre-warning. It was he ended with this as well. It was like I had an argument with my girlfriend the other day, and you know what? She stormed out, and when she came back, she upset me even more. Like I can't believe she cheated on me with her rapist. Like that it was just so it just made the audience so fucking withdrawn and so uncomfortable, and that's when the MC saw me. And he didn't have a go at him. Though he said, "Look, this is a dark comedy night. I didn't specify what you can and can't do, but if you're a young man who's never been through that, you do not." You don't have the right to do that joke on stage because of how it makes other people feel. He said, "There's a way you do dark comedy, and that's not it." He said, "But you know what? It's not your fault. That was my fault because I missold you tonight." And he was trying to sort of give him an olive branch, and the guy told him to fuck off, and he chucked him out of his club. He's like, you get out then, because I've offered you an olive branch. I'm not having a go at you. I'm just chatting to you like respect.
you try. He's going out of his way to be reasonable and and tactful with him. And this guy's obviously gone. He seems like the sort of person who'll say something, but is a fool to himself because he won't see sense. And then he goes, just, "Oh fuck it, man! You just don't understand my style. I do what I want. I'm ahead of my time, man." It's like rape jokes are as old as time, you know.
Exactly. And again, most of his jokes, you could watch a Jimmy Carr set, they're very similar. Like, I just think you're not original, you're not clever, you're not funny, you're not giving it context, you're not layering it because you can tackle really dark subjects, but also in a way where you're very much involved in that subject. Like, I had a lot of bullying at school because of my autism. I got called the word retard a lot. I own that. I own that. And I try and make a joke of it, make light of it on stage. And that's how you do dark. You hold up the dark topics and you beat them in the face a lot of time. Like there was this one joke I used to do, and it was like, oh, retard, oh, what do you go around, what, licking windows? And then I sort of went, and they even inspired me to start my new window cleaning job. Tongue and the dirt is gone. So it's that kind of, do you know what I mean? It's that, and then I remember what I used to do. I used to start licking the nearest kind of like glass or window or something, like
Commit
nearest.
to the bit, man. I respect that.
But that's the thing. I got more committed to that sort of thing, and but that's what you did. This is what I mean. That's an example of taking something fucked up and running with it. Like, and it takes a bit of skill to do. But yeah, it's interesting, sort of like comedy and writing, because I do like the darker stuff, but there is limits to it, and
there's a way to do it. I mean, I have some general rules, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, and I'll end on a point I was meaning to backtrack on anyway, but no, it's my fault. But you've got to know what you're talking about. I think first and foremost when you deal with a topic. If you haven't experienced it firsthand, you've got to have done research and at least have know someone who's been through it. And crucially, you've got to say something with it. You can't just like drop rape into the conversation as a bit of sentence seasoning just because you want to add a bit of spice to the punchline almost. And I don't know how you feel about that sort of guidelines.
Yeah, no, I sort of agree with it, and I think as long as you layer it with context, because I've heard some pretty dark. Okay, so for instance, I would always urge everyone to watch Hannah Gadsby on Netflix.
Nanette, it's a very good special, isn't it?
Honestly, I haven't laughed and cried simultaneously like that, because she holds up her trauma to show everyone and just picks it apart. But you still laugh because it's like it's almost that release, and that's what she said. It's all that tension, and there's release. But also when she goes, "There's no punchline here. This is my fucking life." But then she always tries to make it light-hearted again. But it's such a beautiful journey. I mean, that is such a well-written. That's how to take the darkest subjects on earth and make them funny. And because I think the best comedians are comedians that make you feel as well. The ones that not just make you laugh, but make you relate and make you go, yes, I fucking agree with you. Like, one person I always thought was brilliant at doing that was like Bill Hicks. Like, he's one of my all-time favourite comedians. I mean, there's a shitty blowjob joke he does I'm not that massive fan of, but most male comedians make that sort of joke at some point. Not that I'm excusing it, but yeah, like Bill Hicks will take the darkest subjects and just bring light to them, sort of thing, and just get you to relate. Like, he used to, picture himself as a devil fucking these celebrities, and like, going, "You drink my corporate jizz," sort of thing. But I don't know. Have you ever watched Bill Hicks?
Yeah, but Bill Hicks is one, and Frankie Boyle, ironically, are two of the reasons I got into comedy. Two of my favourite comics.
Yeah.
I still rank them in sort of the top 5 most influential comics for me. It's Boyle, Hicks, Chappelle, Stanhope,
Stanhope.
and Maria Bamford are kind of my go-to ones.
Nice, definitely. I mean, yeah, Boyle and Hicks are definitely up there. I think Stuart Lee's really good as well. He's really clever with his stuff. I mean, a lot of people say he's a bit patronising, but I quite like that.
Yeah.
I think he gets away with it as well.
Yeah, he's fine. It's just his style, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's funny, like, because my 2 older brothers who have very similar sense of humour, but they don't get his style because it's a bit meta and a bit layered and a bit like anti-comedy almost. But I really like that type of style.
yeah, I've had some Some of his stuff I like, some of his stuff I don't, but it really depends what he's talking about and what bit. But I've enjoyed his book, like The Life and Many Deaths for stand-up comic, and um, I love Stuart Lee's Comedy Vehicle, all of that sort of stuff. But kind of a point about those sort of dark or irreverent comics. What I have noticed in total contrast to the material, a lot of the darker comics I've seen are some of the most friendly, approachable people
Yeah.
that in real life. But then with Ellen, some of the more wholesome, mainstream hashtag relatable comics, the most two-faced, um, disingenuous, clear bastards I've ever met in my
So,
life.
so,
So there's that
so
weird sort of contrast, isn't there,
yeah,
between what they portray and what
yeah.
they actually are.
So do you think on that logic, Michael McIntyre's a cunt? Like,
Mike, that's where they all find Maddie,
yeah,
calling it now.
yeah, years to come, it's going to be that kind of there's going to be a Jim will fix it scandal with Michael McIntyre. I'm assuming Operation New Trees are quite finished. Yeah, it's like I
The
don't know,
most unexpected Me Tooing ever.
unexpected, but is it really? Like I don't know. It's almost that there is that sense of how can you be that kind of nice, happy-go-lucky person? Like you can't. But again, the Ellen thing is a perfect example of that. But it's funny. They're the comics I really don't like. Like the happy-go-lucky one. Don't get me wrong. I do like the kind of more optimist. Like Russell Howard, I quite like because I like his energy, and I like his passion on stage, and I can see that. Um,
I
and
feel the same about Maria Bamford in the way she deals with things.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, but it's but stuff like Michael McIntyre and stuff like I know Milton Jones. I got massively like I had a comedian message because it was like who are the comedians? I think Harry Wright put the stage on his Facebook. Like who are the comedians in which you love the art? No, you hate the art but love the artist. And I
Yeah.
went, oh, Milton Jones, but I also hate the artist. And exactly the message me, like, why do you hate Milton Jones so much? And I went, no, I just think he's just really bad comedy. I just think he's very average at best. And then he's like, oh, I thought he'd done something horrific. I thought that's why you hated him. I went, no, I just like, but again, who knows? But I just, I find them bland. Like I like my comedy quite dark and alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
like
I like to see something on the fringes of the human experience. And
yeah,
I know in reality, Michael McIntyre's dad committed suicide and he was an entertainer. And then all he really wants to do is entertain and make people laugh and not really upset the apple cart, which I suppose is a noble mission. And it's
don't get me
like, in terms of, if I use a music analogy, not every album has to be death metal, and not every comedy album has to be like paedophilia, Madeleine McCann, Armenian
wrong.
genocide. You know,
Absolutely not. And some of the best comics I feel do that so beautifully, like James Acaster. I've only recently become a fan of him recently, but he talks about light-hearted subjects, but he also I think he does sort of mention depression at some points in it. But like and it'd be can do light-hearted stuff and it'd be very funny and it'd be brilliant and stuff and yeah, Michael McIntyre's case it sounds like it's very noble and I'm not sort of shitting on him as a comedian. I just my personal taste doesn't really match his and don't get me wrong, I like light-hearted humour as much as the next one. I just find when it's just like, oh, do you know that time when you and your family go on holiday? It's like that. It's funny. I used to really like Lee Evans, and then I watched back one of his sets recently. I went, oh, do you know the missus, right? Do you know the missus? Do you ever find it when the missus does this? And it's like, they're the sort of jokes about women that are tried and tested and are fucking boring now. Like,
my ugly fat wife shops too much from
yeah,
SNL.
exactly. There's this. Have you? He's not famous. He's not famous, but he's quite well known on the circuit. James Ross. Do you
Yeah,
know?
he's the chap who does Quantum
Well,
Leopard, isn't
yeah.
he? I was trying to get on to that night, but he didn't get back to me, which hurts my feelings deeply, Mr. Ross. I'm going to call the crisis team, and it's your fault.
Yeah, I mean, he got back to me, but gave me some pretty like very honest feedback, put it that way. But I've worked and stuff since, but anyway, I know him quite well, actually, I have to say. But he did this because he's mainly a promoter now, but he used to do his sets, and he does a wonderful bit, like it's on Next Up Comedy, his latest stand-up, which I'd urge you to watch, because there's a section of it where he takes on all the tried and tested jokes. And there's a couple of them which are just brilliant. And it's like, okay, everything that every comedian has ever said on stage, all the tropes I've solved. And like one of them was mocking a disabled person on stage makes you look like someone from the Department of Work and Pensions. Women, eh? Like, women, eh? Am I right? No. And it's just that sort of, but he does do a list, and it's just like and it's like he picks on every sort of trope. That's why I think that's what it is I don't like about the mainstream comics. They do the same tried and tested tropes, like airplane food and stuff like that, which is like, oh yeah, we know airplane food is shit. Like yeah, I don't know. I like seeing different things. People start. Anyway, I'm gonna get another beer. I don't know how long you want the podcast to go on for.
We're going to probably wrap it up within the next couple minutes, but it kind of is like with the tropes is, crunchy nut or shredded wheat are fine, but you wouldn't have them for every meal, even most meals, would you?
No, but also I think that's why it's actually harder and harder to write jokes now. Because yes, I've got a really sort of good sort of ISIS joke. I do that. Luckily, still goes down well. But at some point, there's going to be a point where that's going to get too tried and tested. And yeah, I've got a sort of a Maddie joke. Everyone has a Maddie joke.
You sort of have to.
Yeah, it's sort of part of the process. I think what is it? I'm trying to remember. It's like, oh, I have a sort of a bit like, that's it. I'll talk about Boris Johnson. Like putting Boris Johnson in charge of the country, it's a bit like asking the McCanns to babysit for you. Like, and I think I got Fred, and I follow up with the Fred West one. Like I like, oh yeah, and or a bit like promoting Fred West as patio supervisor at B&Q. Like, but yeah, no, but it's the tried and tested stuff, and I have to admit, I do have that couple of bits, but. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like comedy as a whole, I think it's harder to write stuff and it's harder to be unique, but I think you can do it. I think as long as you have your unique spin on things, I think that's, but it's funny, when I first started, I was like, oh, I thought I was the only autistic comedian out there. Oh, no, I wasn't. Like, when I started doing the open mic scene, I was like, oh my God, there's quite a few autistic guys,
We're here and we're taking over.
Exactly. It's like I did this autism gig, a gig for autism charity, and I was doing some workshops for like these autistic clients or whatever. I said, do you know what? I'm gonna make all of you like some amazing comedians, right? And do you know what? We're gonna overtake the London scene, and it's gonna be great. It plays to our strengths because we have a massive train network here, so. It's like, that's the thing, it's true, like, isn't it? It's like, actually, all comedians complain about going on trains to different gigs. I'm like, oh, I love this, the autistic comedians must be in their fucking element, like.
Like we'll rise from the east like the Mongol Empire.
Exactly, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Right,
sorry,
we've got to wrap up this bad boys. We're over the hour mark, and I don't want to test my listeners' patience given the ADHD prevalence within my fan base. But Mark, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything you wanted to plug before we left?
Okay, so one thing. Well, when is this going out?
Probably next week sometime.
Right, if it goes out before next Wednesday, I'm doing a gig, G&B. It's online gig, and you can follow their Twitter handle, G&B Comedy. But I'll also be arranging a laughable online gig at some point. I was actually going to ask you to come on, Aaron, if you wanted to, if you're up for it. But yeah,
I'm up for it. I'm at a dangerous attention deficit right now.
okay, I'll give you a gig for your own mental health.
You absolute hero.
Yeah, so you can. I run a comedy night called Laughable. You can follow that on Facebook, and Twitter and Instagram. And I have my own podcast called the Autism Hour podcast. Aaron actually appears on the episode as well. And it's on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And then you can, for my online stuff, you can follow Mark Burkwood on Facebook and Mark Burkwood stand-up comedian, my official page, because I'm that original that I chose to not have a stage name. I just went and but yeah, that's I think that's all my social media. That's all the stuff that's going on with me at the moment. But yeah.
Excellent. And obviously those links will appear in the description. This has been the Hoodcast with Mark Burkwood. Mark Burkwood, thank you very much for joining us. This has been a great blast of an episode, if I do say so myself.
Yep, I've had a lot of fun. I mean, it's certainly explored some interesting avenues, but you've got this down to 1 hour 12, by the way, and I'm really impressed because my podcast ended up going on for 2 hours. I'm literally editing the podcast at the moment that's well over 2 hours, and I'm trying to get it down to an hour, and it's really fucking hard. So I should probably learn from you. But yeah,
I was getting to a stage where mine were 2, 3, 4 hours, and my friends were like, Aaron, I love them. And my friends and fans were like, Aaron, I love them, but they need to be a lot shorter. I don't have the time, even in quarantine, for 3 or 4 hours of your shit.
Like I could binge an entire Netflix series for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mark Burkwood, that has had kind of last word with plugs. This has been the Hoodcast. Be sure, everyone, to stay safe, stay hydrated, and stay the fuck inside. And I will see you soon. Auf Wiedersehen, meine Autists. Bye.
Bye.